Hi, family. So, you got a new dog. Congratulations. What's the dog's name again?
Gert?
Gert?
Gertrude?
Short for Gertrude. Got it. Okay. So, lady told me that we were going to send you guys a video giving you some basic tips on the walking and the stuff like that. So, I'm going to give it to you lightning fast, so if you want to take notes or something like that, but you can scroll back and rewind and all kinds of stuff. But I'm going to give you the basic lowdown, sort of the basic knowledge package that we give new dog owners at work. Know that a lot of what we do depends on the disposition of the dog, right? So different equipment and different approaches for different dogs. And of course, I haven't met Gert, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of give you all of the approaches that we use. If you have questions, then you can call us. But I'm going to kind of give you all the different levels and different approaches that we would use for different dogs, and then you can choose from those which approach that you want to use for Gertrude. You're going to hear me refer to correction. Okay, correction is essentially training. That's the correction of bad behavior, like, I don't know, emptying out a trash can. We're going to discuss that in a minute. Why did she do that? There's actually a reason why she did that. But this is all going to really help with stuff like that. We have to understand that it's going to take her a little bit of time to get used to the new house and get used to, bonding with the family. She'll probably choose one of you guys that she likes the most. It's just the dog's nature. Villain likes her the most, but he respects me the most because of my natural authority. And Max was bonded to me, but now since he spends all of the time in the back office with Sarah, he's starting to bond to her because it's really a matter of quantity of time being in the dog's presence. Also, whoever feeds Gertrude is going to probably be ahead in that race for whoever she chooses. But that doesn't mean that if she chooses Mom or Sean or Caleb or that she's not going to pay any attention to other members of the household. It's just that they typically bond to one family member. I don't know what I said the other day to make Sarah think that I said don't walk the dog until the bond is complete. Actually, do walk the dog and spend time with her, play games with her. That's going to accelerate the bond, as a matter of fact. It's not going to harm the bond in any way. Exactly the opposite. It's actually going to help it kind of happen quicker. So bad behavior gets corrected, good behavior gets rewarded. In the beginning of training, we typically use treats for the reward. These are the treats that I use. I get them at the Dollar General. They're like $4. Okay, and then I even save money by breaking them up into little pieces because a big piece doesn't mean any more to the dog than a little piece. So there you go. That's what we use. When you're trying to get her to either do something or not do something, you have 1 to 2 seconds, maybe closer to one, to allow the dog to associate the treat or the reward with the good behavior or what the corrections that we're going to discuss for bad behavior. So I hear that she emptied out a trash can. The thing is, with dog training, a lot of people would drag the dog into that room and shove their nose in the trash or shove their nose in the poop that they left behind God knows when, how long ago. Gertrude does not understand that. She won't understand that. If you catch her in the act, that's good. But if she does something good, like you tell her to come over and then she comes over to you and then you walk over to the other side of the room, grab the treat and then come back and give her the treat, she doesn't understand what she's getting treated for. Grab the treat in your hand, call her to you. The second she arrives, treat her. Okay? Literally the second she arrives. If you're trying to teach her sit, the second that her butt hits the ground, treat her. So it can't be one of those things where you tell her to sit and then she sits and then you reach into your back pocket and fumble around and then come out and then you give her a treat. After 1 second, maybe 2, that has expired. So at the beginning stages. So further down the road in training, as the dog starts to vibe with you like my dogs do with us, she'll start to get it. But for now, just think about it that way. All right. So treats are for good things. All right. There are various ways that we can issue correction, but we're going to focus on walking because I think that's really what they're asking about, right? We're going to talk about walking. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of dog ownership is what kind of leash and what kind of collar And so we're going to go through all of them and what they're for, and then you guys can choose which one you think is most, is going to work best. So you've seen us use the leash because our dogs are bigger and because of the collar that they use. This is a 12-inch dog lead. This is the one that we typically use. Keeps the dog right next to my left leg where I want him, and doesn't typically allow the dog to pull. But you guys see our dogs, these are like military level dogs. So it really is your preference. The most common leash you'll see is this one, the 6-footer, right? They sell some 4-footers or whatever, but this is a 6-footer. If Gertrude is not a leash puller and you just kind of want her to have the freedom to wander around, you don't have to be in that crazy, like, heel formation that you guys see with my dogs, then these are cool. These are the leashes that we typically use when we go to like Forest Falls and we want to just go let them play and not pull us down the mountain and stuff like that. We bring this leash, and then if this comes in handy in training, but if you want Gertrude to maybe be in the front yard but not run away, these are very inexpensive. This was $10 on Amazon. It's a 30-foot dog lead. It's literally 30 feet long. It looks like a normal leash, but it's 30 feet long. So those are the different leash options that you have. They're all available on Amazon Prime. Just go there and Google 12-inch, 6-foot, or 30-foot dog lead, and you'll be presented with all kinds of options. Now those leashes hook onto a wide variety of collars, and the collars are associated with the level of correction. So this is where it gets really customized for the disposition that she has. Okay, the other day I trained for the first time a Rottweiler that was, oh my god, so cute and so delicate and so soft in personality, not hyper at all, actually very sensitive to the world, still very scared, everything's brand new to her and stuff. So she was wearing a flat collar. This is the flat collar. It's your normal collar, it's got the little ID tag on it and stuff. This offers, my mom's calling, I'll call her back. This offers almost zero correction, okay? If the dog pulls on this collar, typically dogs can pull so hard that they're choking themselves, and the owner's getting dragged down the street. The reason why is because there's very little discomfort caused to the dog as a result of pulling on the leash from this. There is only one piece of equipment that has less correction than this, and Villain's wearing it right now. When we hook onto that harness, a dog can pull as hard as they want. It doesn't hurt one bit. It doesn't, I said hurt, it shouldn't ever hurt. You should never hurt the dog, but it's not, yeah, you need to make pulling uncomfortable. So what we do is we start recommending collars that offer a little bit more of a physical discomfort, a consequence for pulling or leaving that position right next to my left leg. Before I move on, the reason why I say left, I'm right-handed. Why am I walking the dog on my left? This is important. It's because it keeps my world hand free. I call this my world hand. I use it to open doors. I use it to open gates, shake my neighbor's hand, draw my gun if I have to. It keeps your strong hand free. And if you're walking Gertrude the right way, people say, well, I need my strong hand because the dog pulls so hard. I need to pull and use my right hand. If she's walking the right way, then you don't need strength to resist her pulling. So for dogs that start pulling, the next level up is this. This is called a fur saver. Fur saver. Okay. So this makes a loop, and if the dog pulls, then it starts to get a little tighter. It's like a slip knot, and the reason they call it a fur saver is because it has the same effect as what we use for our dogs, called a choke chain. Okay, it still does the same thing, but for some dogs with certain kind of hair, these little links will actually pull the hair out of their neck. So that's why people go to the fur saver. So it does sort of the same thing as the choke chain, and as you see, if the dog pulls, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and this makes it uncomfortable for the dogs to pull. So this goes right over the dog's head, just like a necklace. Okay. And this is probably 90% of the dogs that we train that struggle with leash pulling get put on one of these on a short lead, just like that, and they stop pulling on the leash within 10 minutes of starting their first session. So that's a chief complaint that we get. 95% of the people come to us with, my dog's pulling on the leash, I can't stand it. We set them up with a chain. A lot of people call it a choke chain, which is not what it's called. It's called a correction chain. If you're choking the dog, you're using it wrong. I'm going to demonstrate to you how to correctly use that. Now, that is probably the highest level of correction that regular civilian dogs like Gert will ever need. Okay? Some dogs, Villain, are crazy and need higher levels of correction than even a choke chain. So I don't have the full collar, but there's a collar that looks like a choke chain, but it's made up of links that look like this. Focus camera. There it is. You get the idea. Okay? These prongs dig into the dog's neck. And when you issue a correction, the chain gets tighter and these things push into the dog's neck. Very uncomfortable. It's very common that I see dogs with this around the neck and it's hanging loose, which is stupid. The reason I have some links and not all of them is because these are actually the links that I removed out of the one that we have somewhere around here in order to make it sized correctly, and I'm going to address that in a second too. I think we've recommended this for one dog since we started Rebel Canine out of the probably 500 to 600 dogs that we've trained. So this is for a very specific type of dog, yet we see it out in the world all the time. And it's very difficult for us to not approach the person and be like, yo, your dog does not need that. That's inhumane. And then the very highest level of correction is the e-collar. This thing will administer an electronic shock to the dog. Also, this thing vibrates like our cell phones do, or like our pagers back in the day. Don't ever buy one of these or use one of these on Gert if you feel like it's an option without talking to me first, okay? Because when used incorrectly, these things are inhumane. Also, this is a very expensive one and it's worth every bit of the money because it doesn't administer shocks on accident, and you know, it's very reliable, has a great range and all kinds of stuff. These were invented for training hunting dogs, so they're waterproof. So if you ever are even considering a device like this, please call me first and have a discussion with me about it, about whether or not A, you actually need it, or B, if you do need it, how are you going to learn how to use it right? Because I think it's PETA, or it's PETA is trying to get these things banned. And the reason why is because people use them either incorrectly or emotionally. You know, Gertrude's wearing a collar, you walk into the kitchen and you see that the trash can's been raided. And so you fire her up on the shock collar, and that's inhumane. That's not right, but people do it, and I can see where Pete is coming from. But when correctly used, it's not inhumane at all. So we're gonna put Villain on his collar. I'm gonna show you how to do this, okay? Because my chances are this is the route you're gonna want to go, and this is how you'll buy it. It'll just be hanging like this. It won't be in the collar configuration, okay? So this will be probably a part of the video that you go to the most. This is if she's pulling on her normal, just everyday flat collar, okay? You take that collar off when it's time to go for a walk, you put this one on. And so you get these two rings together right here, like so, and so now it's making sort of like a stirrup, okay? Put one ring down just so that they're no longer even, and you can see that we can see chain there through, we'll call this hoop A and this hoop B. You can see that there's chain. So we push the chain through hoop B with your thumb, grab it, and just pull it through, okay? And now it's in a ring, all right? These two rings right now, the ring that has the chain going through it, this is hard to do to make it so the camera can see. This ring right here, that's called the dead ring. When it doesn't administer any consequence. Well, you can. Sarah's just waving hi. Okay, so this is the dead ring.
That's how the beauty vloggers do it.
This is the live ring. We're gonna hook onto this ring because this ring is the one that administers the consequence, okay, for leash pulling. But what this does is this alters the leash and collar setup from a method of restraint to a method of communication. I'll demonstrate, okay? This is also important. Putting it on the right way is important, all right? So right now I'm gonna be facing villain and I'm holding onto the live ring, okay? Remember the dead ring is the ring that the chain is going through. I'm holding onto the live ring and the chain so that the dead ring is hanging on the middle like that, okay? You'll notice that it looks like a letter P turned on its right hand side, turned clockwise 90 degrees. When you're facing Gertrude, if you decide that you want to walk her on the left like I instructed, that should look like a P sitting on its right hand side. Your live ring should be pointed to your left, okay, as we slide it on the dog like a necklace. All right. If she's resisting putting the necklace on, put your hand through the collar like so. Zig, kumi, sini, and just lightly grab the dog's snout and slide it right onto her head, just like that. It makes it a lot easier for dogs that get funky. And now I'm gonna hook onto the live ring, like so. Okay. In order for this collar to be effective, it needs to be up under Gertrude's chin, much higher than you would expect a standard collar to be. Okay. A lot of people put these chains on, and then they let the collar rest down here like a necklace or a standard collar, and what that does is it puts them right where their windpipe is most prominent. And that's why they call it a choke chain, is because people allow it to be down there, and when the dog pulls anyway, because it's not very uncomfortable down here, they're choking. That's because it's being used incorrectly. That's why I said if you're using it right, you're not choking the dog. Okay? So I'm going to walk the dog on my left hand side. No, Z. Sidi. Very good. So just hold your leash like so, and have that collar up around Gertrude's, just underneath the jawline right there. And there's a reason why that works, is that before Gertrude could leave her mom with her other litter mates, mom would control the litter by picking them up just like cats by the flesh on the back of their neck, and that would pull all of this flesh right up here underneath their jaw and create pressure. And by putting the collar right there underneath the jaw, we're simulating that pressure from back when Gertrude was just a tiny little puppy, and it's like a hack, like a lightning bolt into her brain. If she makes like she's going to pull, just a light upward correction just like that. Did you see how I got Villain's attention when I did that? When I gave him one of these, his ears will go back or he'll look up at me. He'll know that I'm trying to get his attention. So when I give him a command, we'll say Gertrude's command is follow, or let's go, or come on. For ours it's heel. And she goes to pull, you just give her an upward correction, and she'll come back. She'll stop pulling on the leash. Do not let her continue to pull on the leash, okay? Because that's just going to slide the chain back down to where we don't want it to be, and then it's going to start choking her. That's why we coach keeping the dog right next to you, because she can't get a drop on you. Okay, she'll very quickly learn that's where she wants to go, because that's where she's most comfortable, and she can become an extension of your body, much like this dog is an extension of mine. Anytime I give the dog a command, I'm going to do a slight upward correction. It's like lay, sini. Very good. That's what I said that's what I meant when I said that the leash and the collar is no longer a method of restraint. It's a method of communication. Like, sitting, just like that. It sends that signal. It's like a lightning bolt right from my hand to the dog's brain. I always tell clients that this is a closed circuit radio signal between my brain and the dog. And the more leash and collar and everything you have between your hand and the dog's collar, is like static in that radio signal. So by using a shorter leash and a chain, that radio signal is no static whatsoever. So it really depends on how far you want to go with Gert. If you wanted to do like military level of compliance like what we get from our dogs, this is probably the way to approach it. If you don't really care that much, heck, maybe you don't care if she pulls on the leash. Most people do, but get her a harness and just hook onto the harness. Just like that. And all of a sudden you see things get goofy and sloppy, and now the dog is not, now there's tons of static in that signal. Villain is so well trained that I can control him with my voice, but that's hundreds of hours of training. But when he goes on the harness, he knows it's playtime. I get to go do whatever I want. He can pull, he can sniff, he can do all kinds of stuff. But when he gets hooked back on to the chain and the chain is in the right place, so he goes back into work mode. He goes back into military sort of soldier mode. Get your stuff off of Amazon Prime. If you go to PetSmart, Petco, or whatever, they're going to be charging you an arm and a leg for stuff that you can get for much cheaper on Amazon.com. So if you'd like for me to send you some links or something like that to equipment that I'd like, that I, would recommend, just text me and I'll do that for you, no problem. Otherwise, give Gertrude 10 or 15 minutes of a walk every day at least, and also get a Kong. Do we have a Kong handy? We don't, do we? A Kong is marketed as an indestructible toy for the dogs. It's a rubber thing. You guys might have seen them here at the house. There's these rubber toys, and they're hollow inside, and they have a hole. You could either use wet dog food or peanut butter. Pack the Kong full of wet dog food or peanut butter, and then throw it in the freezer. Once it's frozen solid, give it to Gert. She's going to work for hours trying to figure out how to get that goodness from the inside. And as the thing thaws, she's going to be slowly rewarded more and more for her work. Okay? But the goal for that is it's a brain game. It's going to exhaust her brain. She's going to be trying to figure out how to get to that stuff. How to get to it, how to get to it. Maybe also do little brain games like Sean holds the dog and Caleb goes and hides the favorite toy. Sorry, there's a fly in here. And then we tell her to find it. Go find it. Little brain games like that are going to tax her little brain, and it's going to counteract the boredom that motivates her to do dumb crap like get in the trash can or chew on shoes or dig holes in the yard or whatever. The reason that dogs do that is because they're bored. They get destructive because they have energy and they're not doing anything with it, so they get into mischief, just like little kids. So what we want to do is we want to counteract that by giving her little things to figure out, giving her stuff that mentally exhausts her so that she's not bored, so that she doesn't get into things that she shouldn't be. I don't know if she's digging holes in the yard. Typically dogs who get into the trash also dig holes in the backyard. If that's a problem, take her poop, put it in the hole, bury it, digging stops. So yeah, that should be pretty much it for new doggy behavior.
Did you actually show them how to walk? Like what that looks like?
How, like, in good heel? You mean?
Well, I don't know. If ever you would teach a new client.
Yeah, I simply, Nuzi. I'm glad this video is for family. Nuzi. Okay. This is the configuration in which we walk. Okay? If I move forward, Villain moves forward. If I move backward, Villain moves backward. He's all feeling it through the chain. Okay? But you'll notice if I turn right, he turns right. If that box, that invisible villain-sized box next to my left knee moves, so does he. So we try to keep the dog in that box. And the reason why is because if he's way out in front and he decides to bolt when I'm right here, I don't have any leverage on him. So he's gonna jerk me down the street. When he's out here, he can pull me because he's got a bunch of leverage on me. I'm off balance and now I'm fighting, okay? But if he's back here, and I'm holding the leash down close to the collar, and he decides that he wants to bolt and pull and do something, chase a rabbit, chase a cat, he can't get the drop on me like that. So that's why we coach doing that. But essentially, you'll notice that I'm holding the leash down next to the buckle because I want very little leash between my hand and the collar because I want very little static in that radio signal. So, but it really, again, is up to you. I have clients that want to hook onto the leash, hook onto the collar with a 6-foot leash and let the dog do whatever the dog wants. Those people don't typically train with us for long because it's our position that this heel position is sort of the foundation on which the rest of the training is built. But some people, I don't know, we get all kinds of people that come through training. They want to train the dog and then they don't listen to us and then we don't get along and they move along. I've got a family that lives right up the street that we're struggling with right now because they don't do the work. So it really is up to you. It's our argument that this is the beginning of a good relationship with a good dog, is keeping the dog right here next to my leg out in the world. It gives you control in those moments when she wants to bolt and meet another dog, or if she sees a rabbit and wants to chase it. But it also sets the foundation for when she's off leash and you want to tell her to come, she knows that this is the place to be, right? Because we make it, all the fun stuff happens when she's here. She gets pets, she gets to go on walks, you know. So yeah, but when you're out there walking, just keep her next to your left hand side. If she's on a chain, she'll very quickly figure it out. Like I said, we get on top of this in the first half of their first lessons, and then they're standing there like, okay, well, that problem is solved. What are we going to do for the rest of the hour? You know, and then we start moving on to other things. And a lot of those people don't ever come back because that's all they really wanted to know was how to keep the dog from pulling on the leash. And then we fix that problem, and then they say thanks, shake their hand, and go out into the world with a non-pulling leash dog. You know what I'm trying to say. So, is there anything you want to add?
Nope.
Okay, hope this helps. Call with questions. Congratulations on getting Gert. That's a funny name. I like it though. Gert.
Means symbol of strength.
Symbol of strength.
Gertrude.
Well, Gertrude does. Yeah.
Gert is short for.
I know. I just think Gert is fun. I think it's a funny word. Gert. Anyway, we miss you guys like crazy and love you very much. Villain says, "What's up?" Poor guy. Now I got to take him on a walk. He thinks we're going on a walk. So
Just because he got a vest on.
go out into the Santa Ana winds maybe and give him a walk. But yeah, I bet you guys don't miss those. Love you very much. We'll see you.